All right, everybody. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how to add vocabulary to your guitar solos. So this is something that I've thought a lot about and people have asked me about. When you're learning a solo, like let's say from a famous guitar player that you really like, how do you actually take all that stuff once you've learned a solo and basically integrate it into your playing? So in my experience, I've found that if I just learn a solo from, let's say, Jimi Hendrix or Wes Montgomery, any of these people, it definitely will help me get better, but I might not find that any of those things that I learn start going into my playing when I start playing a song and I start improvising my own solo. So we're going to address that in this video. So let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at a lick here by actually one of the guitar players I just named, Wes Montgomery. So if you see right up there on the screen, is this cool little lick from a tune called 4 on 6, actually. So if you haven't heard this tune before, definitely go check it out. It's off this record called The Incredible Jazz Guitar of Wes Montgomery. So let's just take a look at this lick really quick. It's right there, so just read the tabs or read the notation if you know how to do that. So I'm going to play it really slowly. It's kind of this cool like arpeggio. So it goes like this. Okay, let me play it a couple times. And kind of when we play it at around the full speed, it's going to be... So if you notice there too, there's a chord symbol on the notation and it's a G minor 7. So this lick is actually designed to be played over G minor 7 chord, but you can actually play it, of course, over any minor 7 chord for the most part, as long as you know how to transpose it. So like if I want to play over an A minor 7 chord, well, I just move the whole thing up 2 frets. Right? Or if I wanted to move it to a B minor 7 chord, move it up another 2 frets. We're not going to get so much into that today. Playing stuff in all different keys, that's a whole different lesson in and of itself. So we're just going to stick with the G minor land right now. So, first of all, I'm going to put on a backing track here, and let's just hear it in the context with the actual chord in the background. Okay, so there you get an idea of what it sounds like. So now, okay, let's say I took this little snippet out of the solo that Wes Montgomery played, but we want to take it a step further than this, okay? So step number 1 is just learn the lick, obviously, right? So what I like to do at this point, once I know the lick and I'm very comfortable with it, is I like to practice changing the last note of the lick, okay? So in this case, the last note is actually here, this E on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. So how am I going to change the last note? Well, I need to know sort of what sound I want to play over this G minor chord, right? So you have to know, okay, if I'm playing over a G minor chord, basically you have a couple scales at work. You have, first of all, just G natural minor. And actually, this is using what's called G Dorian. Again, this is beyond the scope of this lesson. If you don't know what G Dorian is, you don't know what natural minor is, you probably should go learn that stuff first. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is just try to change the last note of the lick to another note that I know works. Another note that fits in the key of this chord or of this key that we're playing in, okay? So let's see what that sounds like. So I actually cut off one note there. Sometimes this gets challenging, right? It should feel challenging or else we're not learning anything. What if I go up? I mainly we change it to lower notes. Let's go up. Okay, so as you can see right there, actually every single time I just change that last note, I'm now improvising, right? So that's the point, is to use the piece of vocabulary to actually improvise with. As soon as we start changing literally anything about this, now we are improvising, we are being creative, we are not simply copying, right? That's the idea. All these great guitar players, they learn all this vocabulary from other guitar players, but then they add their own spin on it. So that's what I'm doing there, is adding my own spin on it, okay? And again, to me, that's just the simplest way, is just changing the last note, because I only have to worry about improvising one note. Now, you might find that you make a couple mistakes, right? You unintentionally, the first time I cut off the second to last note, right? Doesn't matter. That's kind of the whole point. We have to stretch our minds out. That's what we're doing here. So all the stuff should be pretty uncomfortable the whole entire time you're doing it. So now, once I've gotten, kind of comfortable doing that, next thing I like to do is try to change the rhythm. So the easiest way to change the rhythm actually is to slow it down. So if you notice, this whole entire lick is basically eighth notes. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? So it's always like that. But what if I either play it as quarter notes, or I could double each of the notes? So let's try messing with the rhythm now. I'm going to try to either play faster or play it slower, just changing the rhythm somehow, keeping the same notes though. All right? Now try doubling the notes. Kind of like that. Could double some of the notes and not others. Now let's try turning into triplets. So putting different triplets in there instead of just eighth notes. So now that was kind of the same thing. Let's do one more. Doubling or tripling the notes. So as you can see just right there, if you mess around with changing the rhythms, you can get a ton of mileage out of just that one piece of information, right? And if I want to make this video super duper long, I'd just keep going, making all kinds of other things. Now, third step is going to be, let's try changing the order of the notes in the lick. So now, this is almost kind of like a scale or something. We can just treat it like that. So instead of just playing everything in the order that came in, this note, then this note, then this note, then this note, then this note. Well, what if I just kind of randomly mix up the notes in that lick and almost treat it as some kind of weird scale, right? Of course, this is actually, if we analyze this is an arpeggio, and there's a little bit of scale in there. But we're just going to treat this piece of vocabulary as I can change the order of the notes wherever I want to, but I just kind of got to stick to those notes that are in the lick. So I'll probably also be changing the rhythm, using some of the techniques that we've already covered so far. So let's see what happens when I try that. just take like a little snippet of it. You don't have to play the whole entire lick. So now you see, actually, it's basically becoming indistinguishable from where we started, right? Like, you can't even tell that started with this West Montgomery lick. No one will listen and go, hey man, you stole that from West Montgomery. No way, because it's completely so many steps removed from where we started. Yeah, we started with that lick, but the rhythm's different. The order, the notes is different. There's all kinds of stuff that are different that now all of a sudden it's just completely unrecognizable. And now all of a sudden I'm playing a bunch of stuff actually that I normally wouldn't play, right? Normally I wouldn't play in this style, you know, that I wouldn't have expanded my mind this far. So now the last step is I like to just improvise and do my own thing, what I'm naturally used to, and then start plugging this lick in either verbatim or using any of the other techniques that we covered so far in this video. So changing the rhythm, you know, just changing it up. So now I'm just gonna play a little solo and I'm just gonna improvise in the key of G minor. I'm actually playing G Dorian, which comes from actually the F major scale. By the way, if you didn't know that, you can actually play F major scale over this G minor chord and it gives you this G Dorian sound. So I'll improvise with that sound, and then at some point I'll just try to either plug the lick in or some sort of variation thereof that we already covered in this lick. So let's see what happens. There it was. Some variation of the lick. This is very uncomfortable. Gonna double up the notes and look. So now just improvising. So, as you can see, that to me is going to be the best way to start getting this vocabulary into your playing. Is don't just learn the licks from the solos, don't just transcribe the solos. That's all super important, and that's step number one. But it's what you do afterwards that determines whether or not it's actually going to make its way into your playing. So now I predict that if I start playing over some G minor chords, if I improvise over that tune 4 on 6, I didn't want to do it in this video because there's other things that happen in the form and it'd just be a little bit confusing to keep track of, so we just stuck with the G minor static. I'll probably start using that piece of vocabulary a lot more, just variations thereof, right? The idea is that we want to use it to change our playing, to expand our horizons, right? To get unstuck out of our normal patterns. And this is something that every single guitarist struggles with, but also kind of has to accept, right? Because everyone is going to have their certain vocabulary, and that's fine. That makes up your own sound. I have certain vocabulary that I play all the time, licks that I like to play that I've just either come up with or I've learned from other guitar players and they resonate with me. But the way that you keep things interesting is by constantly trying to push that envelope, learning new pieces of vocabulary and trying to integrate them in your playing, because you might find a new piece of vocabulary that resonates with you just like all the stuff that you already have that resonates with you. Anyway, I could go on and on about this, but I hope that this helped. So just to recap, learn the lick, change the last note of the lick, change the rhythms of the lick, and then improvise on your own and start plugging in that piece of vocabulary in the middle of your improvising. If you do just those things, I guarantee you, you're going to be able to get so much more out of all the solos and songs that you learn. Alrighty, everybody. Until next time, listen, learn, and jam.